Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mental Wellness Sanctuary with yours truly, Coach Francis McMiller, licensed mental wellness and mental health coach here in Jacksonville, Florida. I hope you guys have been having a blessed week so far. I don't know about you guys, but March has been moving. Listen, it's the 27th, and there have been so many things that's been going on. I say that just about every week, y'all, but would really say, hey, March has been a month of great movement and great change and great everything. So I'll give you guys just a few minutes to pop in. I hope that you guys have been doing well. I have been doing fine on my end. Um, just wanted to touch base with you guys and talk about something else today. I think it's kind of like a spinoff from last week's show, but I think it would be something that can kind of further push us just a little bit further. For those of you that have caught the topic for this evening is what can't go with you where you're going. And so before I jump into that, I just wanted to remind you guys the event that I have coming up, still finding a really good date. There is a lot of movement going on. So I'm trying to find the best date to make sure that I am able to be present because I am being pulled on. So I'm still getting that together, guys. So once I do decide, I'll go ahead and post it back out. There's a lot going on here with the end of the year. Um, so I'm trying to get everything together, y'all. So bear with me, and I'm coming. For those of you guys that are still aware, of course, as I always talk to you guys about, just a little bit about what I do in terms of I am looking for counseling clients. I'm also looking for coaching and consulting clients, guys. So, like I mentioned to you guys every week, the counseling, of course, is for those that might be struggling in some of the following areas, meaning you might be struggling with some anxiety, some depression, different things like that, and you might need assistance with working through that. That is what the counseling portion is for. However, if you're looking for coaching, coaching is more positive driven. Um, Accountability type things. I do coaching in the following arena, so business coaching as well. But I also do it if you're trying to get your childcare business started. I'm a vetted person in that arena, and I can pretty well much help you get your whole childcare center up. I can also help you with your private school sector piece as well. And if you're looking to start on your own mental health practice or whatever, I'm also able to help you get that off the ground as well as some basic business startup stuff. So, you guys, if you need assistance in those areas, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be more than likely to help you. If you need the coaching part, that's more of a partnership thing where I work alongside with you collectively over an extended period of time or whatever. However, if you just need a consulting, meaning you just need me to come in, tell you what you need to do, and leave you to be able to do that, I can definitely do that as well. Don't forget, y'all, if you know somebody that needs supervision, if they're upcoming licensed mental or registered mental health counseling intern, I am also able to provide supervision for those individuals as long as you're here in the state of Florida, guys. So, without further ado, I'll go ahead and talk about um, the topic for this evening. Of course, you guys are joining me here at the Mental Wellness Sanctuary. We're here, we talk about all things with the intent to help be a support to one another, to help each other grow, to be able to share the things that we feel like we can share, and maybe be able to push ourselves into the place where we are seeing forward movement in our life, we're seeing fruit in our life. And so that's Mental Wellness Sanctuary in a nutshell, you guys. So, for those of you that are joining me, we were talking about today what cannot go with you where you're going. Um, I'm not really sure about everybody else, but I know for those that are around me, those closest to me, a lot of us are moving from one season into another. Everybody's seasons are different, but for the most part, there's some transitions that are happening around majority of us. And so one of the things that has come up now, I know last week we talked about, um, who's showing up. So basically, we are talking about the bigger version of yourself or the younger version of yourself. Which one is showing up, right? But I wanted to do a little bit more of a deeper dive into that, kind of sort of like a spinoff, if I would, to get us to think about another portion of this area. So, one of the things that came up was I had received a devotional from somebody, and it was a pretty good one. And since I was already kind of sort of talking about that, I thought it was just on time and on point. I don't know about for you guys, but I know for me personally, and some people that are around me, we're kind of sort of being forced to look at some other areas within ourselves a little bit deeper. And I think it's really important because depending on what season, it doesn't matter, wherever you're getting ready to go, there are some things that we have to pay a little bit more attention to when it comes to us personally, right? But I'll start off with the devotional that I got, and then I'll go into the rest of it. So the devotional is actually one by Marsha Burns, and it's called Small Straws in a Soft Wind. So today's devotional starts off as this: subconscious patterns of behavior will begin to surface so that you can deal with them consciously. There are things that make no rational sense that you can now face and correct, but must refuse to allow condemnation to be a part of the process. Rise up and demonstrate your potential. I am with you to help you and give you guidance, says the Lord. The scripture that is tied to that is Psalms 46, verse 1. And it says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. So I wanted to talk about one of the key things that was mentioned in the devotional, which is subconscious. So I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with something that's subconscious or, whatever, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys a little bit of a background on subconscious and conscious, and then to kind of help you see how this kind of connects to little you versus big you, but to also kind of help you start to think about some things that you do subconsciously that are responses to different things that we cannot take with us where we're getting ready to go, if that makes sense. So I'll start off with conscious, and conscious is by definition something that we're aware of. And because we're aware of it, we're responding to it however we see fit. Now, this doesn't mean that you're responding appropriately or inappropriately or anything like that, but it's something that you're actually aware of. You're paying attention to it. On the flip side, when we talk about subconscious, so subconscious is not something that you are fully aware of that you might be doing. And this could be surrounding, I want to say, how can I put it to make it make sense? So you're not really fully aware of it, but it's being influenced by something that you may not even be aware of. And that could be um, a feeling or an action or something of that nature. And so, because we're subconsciously feeling some kind of way about something, our response to that sometimes could be inappropriate, sometimes could be irrational, sometimes could be not the best response because we're not really even aware that that's something that bothers us. Now, I know last week I talked a little bit about triggers, and here I talk about triggers often. But sometimes when it comes to the subconscious of something, just think about a situation or a time where you may have responded a particular way. And because you responded that way, you go back and think about it like, gosh, I don't even know why I did that. I don't understand why I did that. Didn't even make sense. Why did I respond that way? Why did I allow that to happen? So on and so forth. And so I wanted to jolt you guys' memory and kind of get you to become a little bit more aware of some things that may be subconsciously impacting you and putting you in certain situations, patterns, habits, things like that that we can't take with us where we're going. Um, so I have some questions for you guys, of course. And um, before I get into the questions, though, I wanted to give you guys another. It's something that we talk about in counseling a lot, which is things that we suppress. So let's say, for instance, we don't want to feel a certain emotion, so we may suppress that thing. But even though you suppress that thing, it still may show up at a different time when you're triggered by something or when something happens or whatever. So um, we have to also be cognizant of the things that we suppress because it still will show up. And sometimes, even in connection to that, we have to be careful with that as well. So, I wanted to bring up suppression as well because It's really important that we don't suppress things. It's important that we process those things. And then by us processing those things, we are able to respond differently. The whole key to this is I want you guys to be aware of what you're doing subconsciously, right? And then I want you to be able to process it, get to the bottom of it. I always talk about getting to the root of something. And then I want you to be able to implement something else, right? A healthier response to that. So, for those of you that have your pen and your papers with you, I want you to go ahead and think about something, right? So the first thing I want you to think about, and this, of course, this might take you guys some time. And sometimes in this activity, what I would also like to encourage you to do, because it's very difficult for us to see certain things when it comes to ourselves. However, others around us, others that are closest to us, might be able to see some of these things that we might do subconsciously. To kind of help us identify those things. So I'm going to suggest that you find somebody that you trust, somebody that knows you well, that can share with you some of those things that you may be doing subconsciously, right? Especially if you're having a hard time with coming up with this list. So I'm first going to encourage you to think about it yourself. So write down some of the subconscious behaviors that you might be aware of now, something that occurred, and then you go back and think about it, and you're like, I don't even know why I said that. I don't even know why I did that. I don't even know. Some of those things can be correlated with or coincide with something that you subconsciously weren't aware of that bothered you. Um, so I want you guys to think about that, but then I also want you to flip it, and I want you to ask somebody that's closest to you that you trust, that you can take some constructive criticism from and be able to see what they say that you do. It's almost like um, my friends, they all know me. They know me very well. And so if I'm doing something, I'm not even really aware of something, they'll say, hey, you responded this way with that, or this, that, and the third. And it was like, I ain't even paid any attention to that. But sometimes we need that outside person to tell us or to show us some things that we may not have been totally aware of ourselves. So that's the first thing. What subconscious behaviors are you now aware of? This is from your standpoint, but I also want you to ask somebody else that you trust, what subconscious behaviors do they feel like you might have, to kind of help you really get a fuller picture of everything, right? Um, Before I go into this next question, since we are talking about what cannot go with you where you're going. One of the things that we have to also be aware of is the fact that things expire, seasons change, friendships shift, relationships, they come in, they go, business partnerships, environments we outgrow, mindsets we outgrow. Um, and so we have to be careful when we're getting ready to go into our seasons that we are doing a self assessment of the things that we have to let go. I always talk to you guys about your fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Um, Words have power. So maybe you need to start speaking differently about yourself or differently about your circumstances or your situation, different things like that. So I want you guys to think about this next season that you're getting ready to step into and acknowledge those things that um, have not helped you or will not help you get to a particular place. So, example, if you're being pushed into this place to try something new or to do new experiences that you've never done before. Of course, that can be very intimidating. Of course, that can be something that we may not have the most confidence in and things like that. However, we can't have a negative mindset and we can't speak negatively over ourselves or our abilities to accomplish that thing, because when it gets to this place, right, where we really have to, do something or show up or whatever, we just don't want that to be a fixed mindset that you have about that situation. So we have to think about those things that we need to do differently. So my next question for you guys would be, once you think about those behaviors, once you think about where it is that you are trying to go, I want you to think about honest assessment now. How have those behaviors impacted your life in the past and even presently? If we go back and we look at our past, and don't get me wrong, I know some people be like the past is in the past, but sometimes the past is our best teachers. It's for you to go back, it's for you to process it, evaluate it, heal, pull it up from the root, whatever it is, so that you can do something differently. So think about how your subconscious behaviors or whatever, how has it impacted you in the past? Because now you got to do something different. I also want you to think about how it's impacting you now. So if you have that fear portion that I spoke about, okay, if you're in fear about something, then when it comes time to move into something new, that fear might set in and it might grip you. Okay, so what is it about that fear? What are you in fear of? So subconsciously, you might be like, I'm fine, ain't nothing wrong. But when it comes time to make a move or a shift or progress, your feet don't move. And so we might subconsciously be feeling those feelings of fear or that we're not enough or, something along that nature. So guess what? In the past, if that's how you dealt with something, then more than likely you might be a person that might find yourself stuck or find yourself not making the progress that you want to make or different things like that. So we have to get to the bottom of that. With that other portion to that question, so how has the behaviors impacted your life in the past and present? I want you to also ask yourself, how could they impact your future? Because sometimes we need this full scope view. Okay, if I don't get over this fear of just speaking, say for instance, then if God is calling you to speak and he wants you to speak in a particular arena or setting or something of that nature, you're not going to step into that thing. How many things have we supposed to have stepped into, but because of something that subconsciously plagues us, we're unable to step into it? Your breakthrough, your blessing, whatever that might be, could be tied to the other side of you working through this thing subconsciously. So I want you guys to think about that as well. The last part of my questions for this evening is I want you to make sure that you identify what can't go with you into your next season. Um, Keep in mind mindsets, keep in mind people, keep in mind patterns, behaviors. I want you to think about it as far back as generational things that you may notice that might be in your bloodline. I really want you guys to take some time out and think about what can't go with you where you're going. It's really important because only then can we uproot a thing and change it. And then once you identify what can't come with you where you're going, I want you to think about what you'll do to prevent that. Do you need to change your circle of friends? Do you need an accountability partner? Do you need a different environment? Do you need to stop going into certain environments? Um, do you need to position yourself better? Do you need to steward better over yourself, over your family, over your money? What are those things that you will do to prevent you from taking things into the next season of your life? Because I'm telling y'all, I don't know about anybody else, but there are some things that I feel like God has been highlighting to me personally. And I'm almost certain if we would slow down and pay attention long enough, that He might be highlighting some things about us that we need to um do some work on. Like, hey, sis, that can come with you. No, sir, you cannot do that going in this place that where you're going. And you have to remember that you still have to remain teachable. Okay, if you're not a person that can handle that first part of that question where I say, hey, ask somebody else some of the things that they notice about you, um then you might need to do some work in that area as well, y'all, because it's really important. We have to remain teachable at all times, right? So, um, to wrap it all up, because I know I've said a mouthful just now. But in order to get the change that we desire, y'all, we have to be in constant re-examination of what is taking place in our space, in our life, in our minds. And once we're able to become aware of those things or conscious of those things, like we talked about today, then we have to identify what that trigger was or whatever that stimuli was, right? And then we process it. Like I said, we make sure that we process that thing. Don't suppress it, don't repress it, don't ignore it. Don't feel like if I just ignore it, it's just going to go away. It usually doesn't. From a counseling perspective, let me share with you what typically happens. It comes up whenever that trigger is poked at. It comes up if somebody says something. It comes up in different ways. So I want you guys to be cognizant of that. When people say, "Oh, that stuff don't bother me anymore," and then somebody says something, or you see something, or you hear something, and now you subconsciously feel some kind of way, and then your response is different. I'm always saying y'all have to take these things that are happening and you have to process them. You have to uproot it. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to do stuff differently because we're creatures of habit, and we like comfort, and we don't like to be uncomfortable with things. And so we'll always usually resort back to what's comfortable if we're not careful, okay? So once you process it, then I tell you guys the flip side. You got to put something in place to counteract that subconscious behavior. So if you recognize that, fear, since I've been talking about that fear is something that grips you. Okay, well, how can you help yourself to not be as fearful in that area? Once you process where the fear is coming from, what the trigger is for the fear, okay, what can you do to counteract that fear? If your fear is speaking in front of people, okay, put yourself in situations where you might have to practice speaking more in front of people, whether you're recording yourself or recording videos or doing different things like that. But we have to put something in there positive to kind of help us to do something different, to help build us up, or whatever that might be. It depends on the situation. However, I did just want to make sure that I explained to you that process of change and how it works. And honestly, you can apply this across your life. It doesn't just have to be subconsciously, it could just be something that you process across your life. If there was a situation that happened and you didn't like the way it played out, or if you did like the way it played out, well, what took place? What was the positive trigger? What was the negative trigger of it? Process that thing and then say, okay, I like that, so I'm going to continue to do that. Or I didn't like that response, so let me pick up something different, y'all. So um that is all that I have for this evening, guys. I just thought that us being more conscious about the things that we're subconsciously unaware of will also help us to grow further. These are the behaviors that kind of govern that big you response or that little you response sometimes. And so if we can tap into that, really get to understand those things that really impact us and why we do them and why we respond the way that we do, only then can real change occur, y'all. So I want to bid you all a farewell this evening. For those of you that are watching, I feel like somebody could use this video. Please share it with other people. I always want to remind you guys that I do have my journals on hand. I do have my books on hand. And I also have my affirmation cards on hand, guys. So if you're interested in obtaining any of these items from me, I am definitely able to ship, or I am definitely able to meet you so that you can get whatever it is that you need. I still got some other stuff coming up, y'all. So I'm kind of excited about it. Some of the new things that I'm going to be working on. So I would hope that you guys will continue to support. But if you don't, I still love you guys anyway. So please make sure you share this video, like this video, drop me a comment. If you guys have any other topics or things that you would like for me to cover, please share those things with me. I know I usually come up with the topics, but I'm always open to talk about some of the things that might be bothering you guys as well, or that you may need some assistance on. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday evening. And we will see you back here again next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. with yours truly, Coach Francis. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.